They get so messy. I put them in my wedding albums now. It's my favorite thing to find the most jacked up table with the most beers, knocked over glasses, napkins everywhere, and take a big picture of that because then it just shows how good of a party you actually did have.
How have you two been? What have you been up to?
Doing good. Switching gears, started with nonprofits, and now we're doing full course wedding season. It's here.
Isn't it awesome? I love it. I'm having a great time.
I can't believe we're like almost halfway through the year already. It feels crazy that
don't say that.
is like officially underway.
That's-
I just got back from California and it's hotter here than it was in California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I'm a summer baby. I bring on the heat and the sun. I'm for it. Just need the beach, y'all.
I was supposed to have an engagement session last night, and I texted them like, it's going to be like mid-90s at the time that you want to do this. Are you sure you don't want to wait for this heat wave to pass? And we pushed it out a couple of weeks, but
Oh, thank goodness.
to try to not, get heat stroke doing their
Yes.
engagement sessions. Nothing says love like heat stroke.
Yeah, and you have to work in the shadows most of the time anyways because everybody is so dewy. I've had couples go through with it, like you text them, you're like, please reschedule. And they're like, no, we're going to go for it because we've done this, that, and the other thing to make sure that we can have this engagement session tonight. Like they're like
got my hair and makeup done.
exactly.
Or whatever.
And it's like, well,
Yes. Here we go.
yep, here we go. Get ready to get dewy, damp.
It's glistening.
Yes.
Listening.
Sparkle.
Sparkle, yes.
Well,
They're bedazzled without the bedazzler.
everything needs a bedazzler.
Yes.
Well, we're here. We're back, ready to talk about one of the number one things that people ask us about, or probably mostly ask you about, Raina, which is budgets, money, the big question of where does everything go when you're planning a wedding, and how does it all run away from you so fast when you're, needing to line up every type of vendor that exists to make your beautiful vision come true. So we wanted to talk about some of the different questions that people have of how to break down a wedding budget and why wedding vendors price themselves the way that they do, and just kind of dive into that topic and see if we can help some people out.
Absolutely. It's a great question.
I know. It's the big one.
Yeah, it's a little touchy. It's like where everybody starts. Like, how much money do we even have to do this?
And
And
we've
what
said
does it even cost?
We've said it before, but like money follows money, and the order that you like make your decisions in for your wedding has a really big impact on how far your money goes, because like you have to figure out what your priorities are, how much is the venue going to cost, since that's a really big cost, and then go from there. I've seen it all the time where people leave photo video until further down their vendor list because they want to take care of all of the venue and the decor and all these other things, which is great. And then they're like, well, we really want to prioritize photo, but we've already spent so much money on everything else that now we don't have the budget that we would have liked to have had for it, and can't go back and change the decisions that you've already like signed for.
Yeah.
And so it's a tough one.
Is that why we're having the situation where there's people booking later than normal too?
I feel like it definitely could be. I think there's a lot of like economic pressure on most people right now. And then that makes them get a little anxious about spending money. And I think I've heard from couples that they've sort of like put off actually signing contracts with people because the money makes them nervous. And then all of a sudden they've backed themselves into a corner with not a lot of time up until their wedding date, but they still need to commit to a lot of vendors. And then you're paying for all of those vendors at the same time then versus starting out a little bit earlier and spreading them out.
I don't think a lot of people realize that to actually book a qualified wedding professional, there are deposits required, so they aren't prepared mentally or financially to be able to address those. And then, of course, weddings are overwhelming as they are, and they have mom and dad and auntie, everyone's in their ear about their priorities, which is so important for the couple to sit down and talk about what their priorities are, starting with the guest list, date, which impacts your venue and all your other vendors as well.
And I don't blame people also for being confused by the wide array of budgets and tiers that you can find for weddings. Like, for every type of vendor, there's going to be people that range across a whole spectrum of pricing, and what's expensive to one person is reasonable to another. And you might not always know until you talk to the vendor. That's why all three of us try to be very upfront about our pricing and where we are in the market. I think we all consider ourselves to be kind of in the median price point of reflecting our experience and professionalism and knowing our worth, but not being in the budget tier, not being in the super high-end luxury tier price point either.
There's something out there for everyone. I know there's tons and tons of studies out there, but I'll be honest with you, every wedding's different. I've seen where they might be I want to do everything myself type couple, but photography, videography is like number one in their book. So they will go out and book that luxury photographer, videographer type person. But it really goes back to what you want, what your wedding vision is. One thing I don't recommend, we probably can all, don't go broke for your wedding.
Yeah.
This is one day for the rest of your life. You definitely want to invest in it and have wonderful memories, but you don't want to be paying on it 20 years from now like your college tuition. It's just not wise to do, and you need to live with each other with joy for the rest of your lives.
I didn't know people did that, like finance part of their weddings,
Yes.
until, I had friends, they're planning their wedding, and then, you hear, oh yeah, we put it on the credit card bill.
I have heard from some people that some couples have had it work where they selected a specific new credit card to open to put a certain amount of wedding expenses on because it's like a travel-oriented credit card.
Discipline is key. I know a lot of people do that in their day-to-day living because they accrue the points, but they also have to be very disciplined to pay it off at the end of the month so they don't end up with a $10, $15, $20 plus $1,000 credit card.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to open up talking a little bit about wedding tiers and the different categorizations of everything from budget to high-end luxury. And I think, Raina, you're probably the perfect person to give us a little bit of insight on what each of those tiers really are.
I'm going to start off with the high luxury tier because those are a lot of fun. Who doesn't like a six-figure budget wedding? Yes, we love those. We're all up for that. However, those are far and few in between in our market. They do exist. And to explain those in layman's terms, there's the one, just tell me what you need and I'll write you a check. Who wouldn't love that? But let's be honest, that's not the day-to-day couple. So then we have I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum, is our DIY or budget brides. And DIY the acronym stands for do it yourself. So those are the couples that want to do all the centerpieces themselves. They have family members who want to do the cooking. They want to do the bar themselves. They are basically not using any wedding professionals or using specific wedding professionals to make their wedding vision come to life. Then there's the mid to upper tier, where I probably say this is probably the most common. You're working. They're like us. We work every day. We work for what we want in life. We don't have a problem spending the money, but we'll spend it if that's what we want. And and they'll definitely use the wedding professionals out there because they're willing to invest in their peace of mind. Then you have the high end. I kind of blend mid-tier to up high-end tier together because there is such a range and fluctuation in that and what they are willing to spend, but they definitely prioritize where they want their monies to go. I kind of liken it to, if you guys have watched the Titanic, it's one of my all-time faves, new money versus old money. New money, they definitely they're used to that grandioseness, and that's what their friends and the country club members and all those type folks expect. Whereas that new money, they appreciate that value of $1. They've worked for it to get where they're at. They're willing to spend that money, but they're also going to keep a little bit in their pocketbook for a rainy day.
There's been a number floating around for a long time now about the average cost of a wedding being around $35,000. We actually just did a social media post about budget breakdowns, which inspired us to talk about budgets more on the podcast, where the Knot was quoting that the current average spend on a wedding is $34,200. Where do you guys think, sort of in that tier system, that price point is most being reflected? Because for me, I think it falls somewhere between the budget DIY tier and the mid-level tier, because there's a range for each of those tiers. But I think that $35,000 is probably, and you would have the most knowledge on this, going to be what would be achievable for either.
I'm not going to say it's a cemented numbers. They're pretty close on average for what things cost here in the Midwest. Obviously, when you go to the coast, it's going to be a little bit different. Depends on your demographics and where you're located. It also depends on what vendors you have. It also depends on how many people you have. So I'm going to say that $35,000 approximately is for about 150 guests. And that is being reasonable and dividing out how your monies are spent. Your venue is going to take a big chunk of your money, but I'm going to be honest. I know the Knot said venue takes on the biggest amount. I'm going to say food and beverage, because I have seen alcohol bars beat out the food count several times.
Yep.
And it really depends on your guest count, because I have gone to dry weddings too, and I mean, then they just put it everywhere else. But yeah, food and beverage, that's where your money's at.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just looking at my own wedding, you know, how much we spent on food and beverage, it nearly outweighed what it would have been to rent the venue in the first place. But because Country Club, they were waiving that because we were spending so much on food in the first place. So, yep,
That's great.
That worked out.
It did.
So, but that's the thing, is you got to keep an open mind about your situation.
There's a lot of venues, and there are venues at many price points. And I'll say that across all gamuts for weddings. We're giving a baseline. You can be less, you can be way more. It really depends on where you are at personally. And so, although we're saying this is an average, I also shy away from it, because what you want to invest in on your wedding day and where you want to put your money is different for every couple.
I do think it would be good, though, and we did this in our social media post, which people are welcome to go back and find. We're probably going to do a blog post that dives into this also, but I wanted to quickly run over some of the suggested percentages. If you start searching online, Raina had mentioned that, you know, venue is one of the really big factors, and food and drink are really big factors. From the numbers that we were able to find, a suggested breakdown was running through about 29% of your budget going toward like venues and decor, basically securing where you want to get married and most of the decor, and rentals. That would also be things like tables and chairs and linens, right? Catering, cakes and drinks, about 24%, about a quarter of your budget. For photo, video, and planning and coordination, the average spend is around 10% of your budget. Florals, 6%, entertainment, 5%, attire and beauty, 4%, transportation, 2%, and then had to have a buffer of 4%, which is for maybe other things like stationery, for tipping your vendors, for unique vendors that you might add that are outside of what you would normally put on a standard list of vendors. If you then think about the average median cost of a wedding and the median cost of a vendor, I wanted to talk about what I have been coining like the disappearing of the median cost vendor, or like the disenfranchisement of the median average cost vendor. And we use the word average, but that's just sort of like, you could sub in any word you want. I think, like I said, we all kind of position ourselves to be in a competitive median range for the median average wedding that would be here in Omaha. People have a lot of question marks about why vendors cost what they cost and why vendors are always working toward moving their price points up. And I just think it's good for us to share a little bit about our perspective as vendors. And what I have been seeing is that as the economic pressure has been coming down on couples and on small business owners like us, that it has created even more competition within that median range of professionalism and of wedding experiences. So like for me, I know I've been trying to gain more skills, more deliverables and things that I can continue to push my creativity, push my skills and my experience for my couples to be able to work up and provide a high tier experience, work toward those luxury end of the market. Because if we're being honest, you can't really survive if you have to, let's say, go down to the budget end when you've been trying to survive at a higher price point. I totally sympathize with why, as financial pressure is coming on couples, while they might lean more toward a lower budget for vendors than what they would have maybe wanted to do. But I think that it then is making it more competitive and more difficult for people that are used to there being a thriving average market of customer base, that base is sort of disappearing because people are either always going to be in a more comfortable budget because they're in a higher end like tier of expectation anyway, they're comfortable like you said, or if they're feeling that pressure, they might be moving down to a lower tier budget, and that can make it challenging to navigate then from the professional side.
You mentioned there's like always a lot of competition, and I think that's a huge thing when you get into how many photographers and videographers there are. With the rise in technology as far as, you know, computers and cameras, it makes the job a lot easier as well. The pandemic blew up the gig economy, you know, so like everybody's like figuring out how to their own hustle.
I have to agree. I think there's a lot of raw talent that is coming into the industry. When you look at your wedding professionals, those who are able to recognize their talent, their skills, their experience, those are the vendors that you are paying. I don't even want to say paying. I want to say you are investing in buying their services, using their services on your wedding day, because you know they have the ability to execute your vision to perfection.
Right.
And I think that is the delineation. I will tell you, you guys have seen it on the photographer, videographer side of things. I've seen it on a wedding planner side of thing. I just did my wedding. It was so much fun. Now I'm going to go plan everybody else's wedding. I love that you have that passion and that excitement, but you don't know what you don't know when it comes to the full spectrum of everyone else's thoughts, ideals, dynamics of family and budgets and resources and networking. There's so much that goes into that. I mean, I'm one, I don't gatekeep. If you want to know, I'm more than happy to share. But at the same time, if you are a upcoming couple getting to be ready to be married, you need to understand there's raw and there's experience.
I do see this with a lot of photographers as well, because there's a lot of terrific portrait photographers that are entering in and coming in here, and their work is like as good as mine, if not better sometimes. And they're undercutting me by like 50, 70%. They, you know, make great portrait photographers, but what the problem is they are not like storytellers. They're not journalists. They don't have this other side where they've got an eye on the room the entire time. If the door opens, I'm glancing over my shoulder during getting ready, because it might be somebody that is seeing the bride for the first time in her dress, you know, and that like their face through the door with the like expression, that's real. That happened like naturally, you know, and that's that's a lot of what I'm seeing, is like there's a lot of people joining, but they're like great portrait photographers. They just haven't been to enough weddings though to truly understand the flow of things and really just make art happen, as it's naturally happening.
Well, and most other types of photography or most other even events that you might plan don't have the same sort of emotionality throughout. Like if you're doing a portrait session or if you're planning a corporate event, there might be some emotional nonprofit fundraising type of events, but other events, even birthdays or things like that, where it is family and friends in a similar way, it's not the same thing where you're trying to capture every emotion. Everybody's doing different things and like so much chaos happening and interweaving throughout the day. If you're a portrait photographer or a commercial photographer, those are completely different skills than to control your environment like that is a skill set, but it's different than controlling a people environment. Like I do think we often get undercut either by, like you said, people coming in from a different area thinking that they can directly translate their experience when really they can't, or maybe they are only doing this part-time and so they're not reliant upon making each opportunity profitable in the same way, because for them it's just like extra cushion money or fun money or just a creative outlet. Like let's say you have a $3,000 or $4,000 vendor and then a $1,500 vendor and their work looks pretty similar. I think that couples then have an inclination to go, that more expensive person must be scamming me in some way because there's no way that they're worth double what the other person is charging. But what they don't think about is like, maybe that other person knows that they're not making as much as they could or should be if they needed to do it on their own. And maybe they're undercharging because it's not their full-time job.
A true, and I'm going to say it, not photographer, not videographer, DJ, florist, wedding professional. Wedding being the ultimate word, because weddings are a different beast into a whole different world. There are nuances to it that you have to be very familiar with. James just shared a perfect description of the doors open. They're going to have a whole facial expression that I need to capture. You learn anticipation of the next steps before they even begin, just because you've done so many. So again, you're investing in that experience. The cheaper one might do a good job, but do they really know their craft?
I do think, too, when we talk about, and I know this is a topic you wanted to talk about, Raina, so I'll let you kind of lead us, luxury price point versus providing a professional luxury experience, and whether or not vendors are just charging a luxury price point, or are they actually providing a luxury experience?
I've noticed a lot here, and it kind of got this conversation and my rebrand going, is everyone wants to be a luxury professional. Everybody wants the six figures. Everybody wants the high dollar amount clientele. And that's awesome. I'm not debunking any of that. It's beautiful. But in that process, as everybody's trying to achieve that high dollar amount, are they really providing the experience that the client is needing and wanting? Every client is worthy of gaining your time, your attention, your sharing of your professional expertise so that they do have that luxury experience. They are deserving of that. That's what they hired you for. So in my book, every client is a luxury client. When you come into our fold, that's the experience you're going to get, no matter if your budget is $10,000 or if it's $150,000. You're going to get that same experience across the board.
I was sitting there thinking about it myself as you were saying it, and I'm like, I feel like I've brought that experience, a luxury experience, for a while because of the care we take throughout the entire process to make sure that the wedding day is captured. You have beautiful engagement photos that are like meaningful to you. Little boxes we check along the way to make it super meaningful. that's what makes it luxury, right?
Right.
Like, what do you think, like a luxury photographer, what are some like must-haves that,
We've talked about this before on the podcast, but I think there's a lot of things that are standard that get marketed as luxury. And so it does become a very fine edge of what actually might put someone over the top into a luxury experience. And some of the things I would say don't apply to the average wedding that we would get or would expect to see an inquiry about. Standards, if we're just talking about photo at least, would be like you should definitely expect they have some version of an all-day wedding. Usually that ranges from 8 to 10 hours upward. It's not necessarily reasonable to expect that they're going to do like 15 hours or something. Like usually all day has a definition. Think of it as like you worked all day at a 9 to 5. That is all day. That is 8 hours. It's a similar thing. You should definitely expect that they will have high quality, high resolution images that they're going to deliver to you and that they have the gear that can achieve that.
Right.
Most of the time, you would expect they would have a second person with them if you're having, 150 guests or more at least to really be able to capture every angle. I think second shooters are really the first entry into what could make you give a luxury experience as a photographer, because the more team members you have, the more types of things you can do on a wedding day because you have more hands, more eyes. So you see some of these ultra high luxury teams that have like 7 or 8 people that are covering photo video together because they're running a drone. A drone would be a good example of what can put someone over the edge into providing something different that makes it feel luxury. They're getting like multiple types of like filming on Super 8 while filming on traditional, camera that we might bring. They're getting maybe film is very popular right now to have actually a physical medium format film camera. Like, do we think that people are just pricing themselves at a luxury price point just to do it? Because people give advice all the time about like, just take the leap, just raise your prices and the clients will follow. But then also at the same time, some people are like, no, you need to make sure you're like overbooked at this current price point before you move up at all. How do you two sort of see that landscape?
This gets raised all the time because we do see people who have the same or similar experience as us with that luxury grade pricing. We also see where you want the quantity, so you undercut yourself and those in the same market. I think it's good to be in a competitive threshold because you are there with your peers, but I think it really is truly up to that individual about where they want to price themselves. You have to know your worth and what you need to survive in this world, because this is a job, it is a business, just like it is for your doctors, for your plumbers, for your electricians. This is our job. So you take your experience, you take your resources that you have on site, and then you allocate that according to cost of living and what it takes to survive in this world, and there's your pricing.
Coming from like the photography standpoint of it, it has to have those extra things. Like, of course you have the bare minimum, but you got to have like, not the gimmicky stuff, but the gimmicky stuff that works,
Sometimes there is some gimmickness because it becomes expected by the clients. Like if there's 1,000 of your same type of vendor out there for photography and there's 500 of them that are all at approximately your same price point, and somebody else is offering more deliverables, whether that's like film, drones, whatever that we just talked about, that will be something that the client will be able to identify and say, oh, well, if I'm choosing between these two people and they pretty much cost the same, I'm going to go with the person who's offering more things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Whether you're going with a more cost-effective vendor for your budget or you are going with a more, the higher-end wedding professional according to your budget, vibe with them. That's the bottom line. You know your budget, where your priorities are, where you want to invest your monies. But ultimately, we're dealing with people, not just dollar and cents. So we need to make sure that you have a connection with us and we have a connection with you, because on that day, we want to make sure you have a memory that'll last a lifetime, a good memory.
You said earlier guests are the number one thing that brings up the cost of a wedding. What tips do you have for people, whether it's related to guests or other areas of wedding planning, that could help them think about ways to use their budget to the fullest?
Costs rise through your food and beverage. It's going to rise with your rentals, from linens, florals, silverware, all those little things that each person needs to have a good individual experience on your wedding day. Things like your video photographer, videographer, those are stagnant prices. They stay where they are, whether you have a 150 people on up. There are some vendors, I will say, that if you go up to the 300 person, they're going to need some additional resources. So you might have some additional fees. So that is something to think about when you're talking to your vendors, especially if you are going for the higher guest count. But there are ways you can certainly cut that. When I look at a person's budget, first thing I ask them, what's most important to you? What is going to make the best positive impact on your wedding day that's going to make you remember it for forever and ever? And if it's florals, guess what? We're spending some money on some florals because you're looking for them. But with that, even in speaking of florals, if you're getting married in the fall, please don't ask for the peonies. Unless you do have that six-figure budget, because it's not in season, and it is like pulling tooth and nail trying to get those here to the States and in Nebraska when it's sweltering outside or 50 below, depending on which day you're getting married. But there are things, if you do things in florals that are in season, it's going to cost less for you. There's so many different tiers of florals, many tiers. There's like hundreds of styles of roses, and all at different price points. So if you have a Pinterest board and you like, I love this look, well, that bouquet now costs $1,000. Well, I don't want to spend $1,000 on that bouquet.
Right.
Well, then have a conversation with your florist. I love this vibe, this design, this style of this bouquet, but tell me what I can do to get it within this price point. And it might be reducing your florals, or the size of your bouquet. It might be choosing a different floral, something that gives you the same feel, but it's not exact that floral. I'll leave it to the florist to answer all those questions, but there are ways to get that same feel or vibe without the definite price point. And that's why we have to use Pinterest as inspo and be realistic and being able to have those open conversations and have an open mindset to have those conversations. Well, we can get you that feeling, but not that exact product, and be comfortable with that. Linen is also another big one. I always tell people, you have to have linen. I'll be honest, I love bougie linen. It just changed the whole vibe of the room. But with that linen, you have to have color. Play with color in contrast. Some venues do offer white or black linens and come complimentary, then add a little zhuzh of color in your napkin, because that's going to cause that contrast and for the eye to draw, so it's just not a bland room. It's something you have to have anyway, so it's pennies to upgrade that a little bit and have such a bigger array visually for your guests to walk into.
That's such good advice, because there's a lot of weddings I go to, and they seem like white and silver, white and tan, everything's just white. Mm-hmm. There's no definition for us photographers to make a picture that has, contrast and is eye-catching. Mm-hmm. They look like the table settings look real flat.
Depth and dimension are key, and there's so many ways you can do that with things you already have.
Anything that's top of your mind that you think is the most often served up as inspiration that might be surprising people with what it actually costs to achieve and what it might actually look like.
This is fun. Okay, so Your base centerpieces are going to start $45 on up. That is usually your 3-tier pillar candles. Sometimes they come with pillar candles. Sometimes they come with the little votives that float.
And they're not open flame.
And
93% of the time.
and you have some greenery on your table. A lot of people are shocked. I have to pay $40, $50 for that? Absolutely, because there's the resources, and those resources, I hate to use the P and the C word since the COVID and pandemic, aren't readily available anymore. Your traditional small to medium size flower that you see on a pretty little vase that sits on the table, base price $60 to $75. And that's depending if you use current in season florals. That is not your out of the box florals. Those things on Pinterest that you see with the big floral arches that are just grandiose and you stand in front of them for your ceremony, that's $3,000 to $5,000, y'all. And that's base. So
Faux florals have come a long way, though, for some of those things.
they have come into the market. Be careful, because not every faux floral is the same faux floral that will blend in. I have a couple of florists that are experts in being able to blend both those faux florals, but it's an art. And so you need to make sure that you have the right florist to be able to do that. But even then, there's a hefty price tag on it.
What do you think the average, I think when people think about weddings too, they often think about what would be set up for like a plated dinner, but that's not realistic for most people. So how would you explain an expectation or a price point for an average decor and table setup other than the centerpieces and the florals?
You can look at chargers are $3 to $5 a piece. They add and elevate so much to your room if you're able to afford that for each person. Amazing, please do. If we are being cost effective, then I often recommend doing the head table with those chargers. Or family, depending on how your budget and family dynamics are sitting. The other part that you can add to that is your silverware. A lot of time we have standard silverware. I wish I could remember the terminology. My client, they didn't want the Joe Schmo silverware, but also they didn't want the gold tip silverware. So finding somewhere in the middle, there's so many different options now for silverware. You do have your base silverware that usually starts about 55 cents a piece, but there's also so many other rental companies that you can get it in black, you can get it in gold, you can get it in the onyx quartz handle. I mean, those are other ways to elevate your event. But I will say, if you stay within the silver gold, it's only like a 10-cent difference. So you can definitely do that type of upgrade, but then if you want to go more, you can definitely do the quartz. That's like $3 a setting for silverware. You usually see those who are really particular about their tablescapes and their presentation invest in those type of things. I probably say more often than not, people are like, they're just going to eat on them and and they're going to get dirty, and it is what it is.
They get so messy. I put them in my wedding albums now. It's my favorite thing to find the most jacked up table with the most beers, knocked over glasses, napkins everywhere, and take a big picture of that, because then it just shows how good of a party you actually did have.
It's exactly right. Yeah, if you're looking for floral centerpieces, I always recommend having a couple of statement pieces. They'll start at $250 plus, depending on the type of florals, but it draws so much to the eye, which is why we limit them, unless you have, again, the budget for 15 of those. If that's what you want, that's what we'll do. But there's things about being strategic about what you put into your design to get the biggest bang for your buck. You want to draw the people's eye. Sometimes less is more, y'all. It really depends on the design elements and where you're hosting your venue.
And then any budget wasters, you think? Like, I know that favors are a really big, hot topic in weddings.
Okay, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to probably get in trouble with one, but I had a work wife, and she was okay with this. Stationery is paper, y'all. I love y'all stationaries. You do beautiful work. You elevate the look of a table. You elevate the experience. But if you are not fitting in the budget, I told my work wife, I'm like, honey, you're the first thing to go, because people ultimately are just going to throw it in the trash. So if you're going to do it with technology, there's so many different ways that you can provide that same experience and use one versus 150, that you get the same effect. Canva, there's so many people who are I'm probably getting in trouble again for saying this. A lot of people use it. It's a very user-friendly program. And they go to their local printers. And sometimes those local printers have coupons, y'all, that they can do at dimes, penny on the dime themselves. So those are ways that you can do that. But I'm going to be honest, I love the stationers that do the acrylic and they do the photo and they have a whole ensuite. Gorgeous. But again, that's not everyone's cup of tea, and you have to fit in the range that you fit and most comfortable with, because again, we don't want you to go bankrupt over your wedding. Favors, 100%. I can't say the number of koozies I've thrown away or packed up. Some of the things that have gone over really well, food items. I've done s'mores. So much fun in the wintertime. People are like, oh my gosh, I got s'mores. That was awesome. I had a couple. She literally went around and found champagne flutes and she had one of those little machines that write names. I'm going blank on the name right now.
Like a Cricut or something?
That machine right there, yes.
Not sponsored.
She wrote everybody's name on it with ribbon and had it at their place setting. So it served as a favor. It served as a place card.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there wasn't one left. So when you do those type of personal, intimate type things, or if it's food related, those are the ones I shoot for. Stay away from the koozies, unless, that's what your vibe is. I'm not going to tell you can't do it, but highly recommend, don't have to do it.
When we got married, I was adamant. I was like, I'm okay finding some sort of a favor, but nobody, no offense, nobody gives a shit about your wedding after it's done other than you and maybe some of your closest people. And so I didn't want to have something that $1 million would be left behind. I thought about food, but we ended up going with, on Etsy, we found a person that did marble coasters. And on one side of it, it had a thing about Michael and Claire's wedding on this date. But then on the other side, it just had their name on it. And then we put them inside individual baggies with their name and their table number printed on the outside. So they had to retrieve it to get their seat. And then we were like, that way it's just a nice coaster with their name on it. If they don't want to have the side up that has our wedding logo on it, then we won't know and we won't be offended.
Exactly. That's a perfect favor because it's reusable. It gives them something to remember your day, but it's also something very personal to them. So it is able to be used again. And I think people really appreciate that.
We had a real Mediterranean kind of vibe at my wedding, and my wife was
You were ahead of the curve because that's really popular now.
Oh yeah, we were ahead of the curve in 2021. That's amazing. So yeah, she was like, "Let's do little bottles of olive oil on all the tables." I learned the hard way. Nobody took those olive oil bottles.
I would have taken them all.
I know, right? I figured somebody would be take them all at the end of the night. I know. I went through them, and used them as little bottles in my kitchen and stuff like that. But we were doing that for months and months after the wedding because and we put them on the tables too. So it was something you could have used with your food, dip your bread in it. They all were still sitting there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've got 48 bottles of olive oil now.
I don't think people mean to leave them behind sometimes, but 2, 3, 4, 7, 8 drinks in, they forget.
They really do.
I like the koozies. I'm going to go against you on the koozies right now and say, yes, koozies. I take them, and I have all of the koozies. So.
Oh, yeah. I've helped you field koozies at weddings before.
Yes, it's important to get them because I collect every koozie from every wedding, and I put it down in my bar in my basement. So when people come over and they have a beer, there's a story on every can now.
I love that.
Yeah, because you probably recognize all your couples.
Absolutely.
You know, like if you see their face or their name, it like brings back memories of their wedding day and stuff like that.
Although I don't know about you, every once in a while I'll have somebody that like it's like Claire, and I see them and I know that I know them.
Yeah.
And I know that I know them for a reason, and it's probably because I shot their wedding, but it's been like 3 or 4 years or what or more.
Right.
And out of context, my brain is just like, holy shit, who is this?
And they're not all dolled up, right?
Yeah.
They're not all dressed up, all cleaned up, like haircut.
Or
like
maybe
they look
things
different.
have completely changed, like different
Yeah.
hair color, whatever. And you are like, oh shit, they clearly very much know who I am. And I feel bad that it's taking me a minute to place them. But most of the time, because you're staring at them for like 500 to 1,000 images, they do get burned into your brain to some degree.
Right. The eyes start to come through, and you're like, okay, now I know it's Joseph and Danny or whatever.
See, you guys have the images. I have 365 days plus to plan their wedding with them that I see them 1 to 2 times per a month.
It's the other people, though, that recognize me that are not
yes.
the couple. That's like they were in the wedding party or they were,
wow.
and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I think you did so-and-so's wedding. And I'm like, uh-huh. And I definitely recognize you.
I have to tell y'all, my favorite line is, y'all, I remember faces, not names, so please don't be offended.
Awesome.
I'll probably be honest, I'll still probably forget both of your guys' names. And if you really want me to take it another, I get my girls' names mixed up. So I'm being authentic when I say I mess up names.
I'm an only child, and my mom still messed up my name sometimes.
I have to, on the way to the wedding, a lot of times just say their names like over and over again for about like 30 seconds. And then I'm like, okay, don't mix them up. Don't say last week's bride's name.
Oh, I've done that before on accident, especially if it's like back-to-back days, like doubleheader weekend.
Oh, gosh.
And
Yeah,
you've just
that's
spent 8
tough.
hours saying a different couple's name, and now you have to switch gears.
You'd be like, sorry, wrong wedding, y'all. I was just looking at it.
No offense.
Yeah.
No, that's why I've kind of gotten to the point, and it happens naturally, so it really isn't scripted. But I was like, where my mama's at, or where my dad's at, or sometimes I do it by description because it's safe. I try to remember the first names, obviously, but sometimes, and part of it's just my nature, and probably because I'm a mom, and two, that I just call them, okay, mama, just because I'm identifying her. I understand what you're going through. Mom, it's showtime to let your baby go. Just because it's easy. And I call little people, the little ring bearer and flower girl, where are my little people at?
I'll just say littles. I'm like, where are all the littles at?
The little ones. Yeah, I do that same thing with like dads and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, dad. And I'll like just call him dad or like mom or something like that. Cause it's like, we stand with these people most of the day. We're in the room most of the day. So like,
Most of these people, I think, don't care what we call them.
Yeah.
It's that connection, though. I mean, I laugh because I see on social media where you have your wedding vendor in the background just sobbing. And that's me in the background just crying, especially during toasts or special moments during the wedding. I'm just like, oh.
At least you can be in the back of the room. We're photographing or videoing up in the front. We have to not be crying in front of all of your guests.
Right. I have definitely had like camera in my hands and then just brought it up over my face and then like, you can get through it.
Yes. Best moments, because we are emotionally invested in your guys' wedding day. Y'all just don't realize how much.
We were going to talk about like people looking for vendors online and looking for vendors on social media. And like when we see all these posts that are like soliciting, looking for a specific type of vendor, but they're just like, find me somebody who doesn't cost an arm and a leg. Find me, like, they have a whole laundry list of do's and don'ts, but they kind of use language that is like not really upholding the level that they're looking for, or they're not providing their own budget expectations or.
Right. I think that's incredibly strange how they will, kind of have a list of must-haves and like preface that with like, we need somebody that doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
Yes, we are a yes industry. That is what our answer is. Yes, we can do it. But the other part of it is That yes comes with resources needed, and those resources cause a line item. And so that's where we as wedding professionals have to educate you on what that arm and a leg is going to cost you. And everybody's arm and a leg is different. And I know that is a catchy phrase. We've used it over and over and over. Our parents, grandparents have used that arm and a leg phrase. But as wedding professionals, we want to make sure that you get what you want and what you need on your wedding day, but be honest and share your true budget for that, because what I may charge based on my experience and expertise versus what somebody else may charge based on their experience and expertise are two different things. We'll fall into two different price points.
Do you see lots of posts like I do on social media that are like people looking for vendors, and then, you know, just the crazy circus that ensues of people jumping at that opportunity all at the same time?
The comment sections are always really, really long, probably about 50 or 60 comments by the time I notice them. I'm finding is those people that use Facebook and those groups are actually more DIY level couples, because they're already using something that is very DIY. Like Facebook is like, it's social media. It is not anything that is like designed for the wedding world. It just fits that, you know, you're able to share information there, and that information is about weddings. So, you know, it tends to collect a lot of those people that are like, well, you know, if they advertise on a website, they must be expensive. Or if they have their own website, period, they must be expensive, because it costs money to have your own website. You know, I'm looking for somebody straight out of college.
I think it's that Facebook wedding group started off really well. It was very collaborative. It was a way to teach, to educate, to provide exposure, to do all the different things that, because nobody knows going into the wedding the first time what it involves. It is overwhelming. So I get you want to tap into those resources, but it has since transition to exactly what you said. It's gone to, I've seen a lot of vendor bashing. I've seen a lot of couples bashing their vendors. I've seen a lot of, I need a cost-effective vendor to do, like you said, XYZ with all these resources. And that's great, but everybody's budgets are different. If you have a $10,000 budget, you may only want to spend $1,000 to $2,000 on photography. Or maybe your budget and cost-effective budget is $10,000 to $15,000 for photography. Again, we don't know your budget, so let us know what that is. But it has become a non-healthy place, and quite frankly, I've started shying away from it just because of that.
Yeah,
I see it a lot on TikTok, especially that like couples are viewing social media as, I should get on social media and put out a post saying like, hi, I'm a 2027 bride and I am getting married in this state, in this city, and this is my venue. And like drop in the comment if you're a photographer, or drop in somebody you would recommend. But then they're getting responses from people that are all over the country, and like things that are not going to most of the time apply to the average person. Like it can be great to get somebody from another state, but that's not the average experience. And so you're casting too wide of a net when you do that as a couple, and you're creating this like weird mix of people that you need to look through that is going to run a huge gamut. I feel like people still think that it's like word of mouth referrals that are the way that most businesses run, but I think that is starting to be less and less as people just cast these really wide nets looking to create a competitive frenzy for who will provide them with the most luxury experience for the least amount of money. Like, what advice would you give to couples on the most reliable, best way to actually find a vendor that fits their budget?
Hire me. Or someone like me.
That's a very good way to do it. Absolutely, because your referrals are way more valuable than going out on the Facebook group and just opening up, the windows to whatever flies in.
That is, if you don't have a me or you aren't able to invest in your peace of mind with having a planner or coordinator on your day, stick to your wedding professionals. Obviously, your first step is finding that wedding venue, or it should be one of the first two after you establish your budget and guest list. Your wedding venue most likely has preferred vendors, wedding professionals. Ask them. If you find a trusted photographer that is truly a wedding professional or videographer, ask them. We are a small and mighty group. There's a plethora, but there's also a nucleus. And based on your personality, style, and budget, we know exactly who to refer you to. Yeah, there's a lot of options out there. I call wedding Facebook. It breaks my heart when I see the stories of the wedding predators that have succeeded in gaining their prey. Because again, couples, you don't know what you don't know, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there are literally trollers on wedding Facebook just waiting to get your attention, and they're not going to deliver what you anticipate. And I always tell my clients, one of the first things, where's the contract? That's the first thing I look at. Yeah. And is it a legitimate contract? Where's their website?
Yeah.
That's another way to determine their integrity as a wedding professional. Sometimes I know we live in the world of social, so they only have Instagram or Facebook. Is it up to date and current? And can another vendor vouch for them?
Yeah.
There are cues out there, but you have to vet them.
I think the website is so important because it shows that you've been in business for around at least a year, because you start out and you're like, am I going to get big enough that I'm going to have my own .com? And then it happens. You're like, yeah, I got to have a .com because everybody else does.
And at first, you might not have enough examples of your work to do a website.
Yeah.
It might start out very simple.
Right.
Social media can be a great just portfolio if you don't have enough for a website yet.
It just shows that inexperience,
It does.
that they have as a vendor to just have like a Facebook page and then just be, advertising in those spaces and posting just your Pixie set URL. That's a thing I see a lot. A lot of photographers are just like, here's my Pixie set. You can look at all of the galleries, everything that I've shot. That's all well and nice, but you don't have a curated website. Do clients care what your cost of doing business is?
They should. And the reason why I say this is because we have a baseline, we have overheads, and we have to have a certain amount of profit to be able to live, just as any other business does. We glamorize the wedding business. All you do is see all the pretties and the smiles and the giggles and all that jazz. It's wonderful. But have you seen a florist's workroom afterwards? Have you seen the bags underneath the photographer and videographer's eyes because they've stood in front of a screen all day?
Have you seen the carpal tunnel?
Yeah. Do you see me going,
The sunburns.
Exactly.
That's the real cost of doing business is the sunburns.
our bodies, our poor bodies.
I've seen the TikTok. I don't know if you guys have seen it where they've taken the song. It's like, my legs hurt, my back hurts, and they're just singing this because we don't try to show you how much pain we're in when we're doing this.
Right.
We're in a lot of pain, y'all. Advil, not paid for that, but it rescue.
Yeah, that's like performance art though too. Like when you're on the job and you're like, I got to get through the day, no matter that whole thing. Especially for photographers, because artists I feel like have to leave their baggage at the door kind of thing. So no matter what's going on in your life and kind of no matter what's going on in that room, you got to be on and smiling and having a good time and trying to pump everybody up, gas everybody up. It's a whole thing. I actually like it sometimes for me because it'll turn my day around. I'll wake up and I'll be on the wrong side of the bed waking up and go, well, I have a wedding today. And I know when I get to the wedding James happens. And that's a whole other James that's a lot more fun. And I get to be wedding James for 6 to 8 hours. And then it turns my mental health around.
It's like a stage persona. It's like a different
it really is.
alternative version of you.
Should we be putting those on our business cards as opposed to our actual names?
Alter egos.
Yes.
I think, there's a lot of people who don't really know what a cost of doing business is, especially if they're newer in the industry. And that encompasses so many things. And I do think it's a big red flag if your vendor has not considered what their actual cost of doing business is, because if they're just picking a number out of the air, then why would you think that they're taking proper consideration of every step in the process and every factor of the rest of what they're going to do? If they don't take it seriously enough to know their numbers. And you don't have to be able to know it down to the dime, but you need to have a good idea of what does your equipment cost? How much are you going to need to set aside in taxes? What average income do you need to take home at the end of the year to sustain your life? A lot of us work out of our houses, so we have to keep a roof over our heads. We have to eat. We have to do all those things. So you have to factor in some things that might be surprising from your personal life. You would, have to factor in marketing and what's worth it to you as you're growing to pay for in terms of marketing. Because I also think I would love to talk about how I don't think clients realize the pay-to-play nature of marketing also. Yeah. I mean, I think obviously they assume ads on social media are paid for, but most places you see a vendor, whether it's a magazine, social media, whatever it is, it's rare nowadays to be able to be in there for free.
Yeah, it's paid placement. That's definitely one of the other things that we wanted to talk about today, and that's ads. Do we pay for ads? How does that go? Do we not pay for ads on this side of the table?
I don't know. I do when I can.
Yeah.
But it costs, especially over the last few years, even just thinking about Facebook, Instagram, the different places you would advertise on social. They have recommended budgets to perform well. And if you don't put enough money into them, they're not going to push your ad to really anybody, to an effective number of people. So then all of a sudden you're spending, anywhere from maybe $300 to $1,000 a month on advertising your business across multiple, platforms.
Yeah, it can really add up.
There's so many places to place ads, and I think it depends on each person, what they're looking for. There's groups and societies and magazines and so many different things where you can place ads. I know even some venues have it where you can place an ad and you pay for it to be a preferred vendor there. So there's a lot of nuances there. It's expensive. Advertising is expensive. I'll be honest, I'm old school. I like referrals, I like networking, and I like to hire you because you're the right person to do the job for my client. And that's how I choose to operate. I've been very fortunate with that style, but also staying in tunes with current activities for marketing. I've looked into it, and I have to be very strategic as a small business where I put those marketing dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, you just had a change in your...
I was going to say, I just kicked the knot, actually, because I meet so many vendors like the two of you that are we don't stinking need them. And we do just fine without them. And I love that. I want that for myself. I don't want to deal with this stream of leads that they are bringing us. I feel like a lot of times they're not very high quality ones. A lot of people, they don't pay attention to any of the information that you have on your storefront. Before reaching out. A lot of people under budget reach out to me. A lot of people that I feel like they look at the pricing guide once and they never contact me again. That happens so often through the knot. And then on top of the fact that, I kind of have this, I have a feeling that they also put the finger on the scale sometimes when it comes to what leads come to your page and what, how they direct people, because I know every time that I put my account into cancellation, the amount of leads increases.
Wow.
And that's happened. It's happening now. And it's happened the last 2 times that I've like been on the knot and canceled it. So I can't confirm that they're doing it, but I still have a pretty good inclination that like there's something fishy about it.
Well, we're not the first ones to talk about it. Last year, it blew up pretty big on a lot of other podcasts and places. And if you don't know this, especially as a couple planning your wedding, the knot, at least specifically, is being majorly sued because of evidence that's been gathered that has shown from people that used to work in the company that has shown that their fingers are on the scale, that there's fake leads, that they are sending out messages to vendors on behalf of couples without those couples authorizing it. And I mean, a ton of details that I can't, necessarily go into right now,
but
but
get too deep into that.
Look it up if you are curious. But even beyond that, whether it's the Knot, whether it's other more reputable sites like Zola or any other places online, whether it's magazines, like if you think about the big names like Vogue or Brides Magazine or any of these places, you grow up with this expectation from media that a cover story on a magazine or a top placement somewhere is because you're being sought out because you're so good. Like, you are the photographer, you are so popular, you have so many good reviews, whatever the case is, that you are asked to do that or given that place of honor or paid to do it. But in actuality, you are paying. Like most of these things, even just for a social media post, costs money to be on their social media, to be... Like, if you're looking on a site like The Knot, it's all based off of how much money you're paying. Like, they literally on the back end are like, do you want to be on the first page of results? Do you want to have a banner at the top of the page that says you're preferred? Great, this is how much money that would cost you.
It's a pretty hefty car payment.
Yeah.
That's basically what I'm getting back from this. Is like in my pocket, it is equal to my car payment. That's what I paid to get on there. They have called me a lot. I'm not picking up the calls. They said they're going to cancel it in 10 days. They're asking for my feedback. So I have asked for a form of payment for that feedback data. I think that's really fun to be like, well, you can either give me a partial refund or maybe one of those Amazon gift cards that you say that are available if I fill out a survey. They always say you could win. You could win. I filled out plenty of surveys for them and didn't win. So I was like, well, maybe you can just give me one and I'll give you the information. They have not contacted me since. So I don't think that's going to happen, but that's okay.
No, that's okay. Now
That's way to get them off.
You can go get a new car now because you don't have the car payment anymore.
I don't need a new car. I actually did get rid of my car payment in selling my house, so now I'm like really sitting pretty.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, whether you're a couple or whether you're a vendor, I think there's a lot of complex things behind the scenes that, people like to say that wedding vendors are just ripping people off and charging a wedding tax and charging because it is a wedding more than they should, but they're not, and there's so many factors going into like why people charge what they charge, and like then it's down to your priorities of what fits in your budget with the realistic landscape of what it costs to run that business.
And don't get caught up in that is the photographer, that is the designer, that is the DJ. Well, guess what? The one that you select is the professional for you. And that's what it boils down to. It doesn't boil down to you have to have what society says is the person. The person that you select based on your personality, style, and budget, that's the best one for you.
Before we go, we had a couple of things that came up on social media recently that we were gonna maybe react to a little bit. We'll put the video in. We've all watched this first one, which is about The user on TikTok, their username is Kai Tallow, and we will tag them, KAI.TALLOW, and they are stitching with another TikTok that is basically showcasing a like high-end magazine, and the magazine is like a skincare issue. And they're showing that they're flipping through all the beautiful editorial images in there, and the photo credits that you would normally see of like this is the photographer and the model and what's being shown are all AI prompts. It's basically just quoting the exact prompt that they put into AI of things like, you know, high-end beauty editorial image showcasing dewy skin with like, you know, light beauty filter. And that's just insane that it's like not even using real people.
Right.
Like the people are fake that are in the images. There's no photographer credited for it. You know, it's stealing somebody else's commercial art experience that they built it upon.
Yeah. There's so many people like that are at a loss for a job in this situation, because you have photographer, you have model, but you also have, you know, who designed this like spread, who designed this set, who did the location. Like usually there's like a producer. So there's at least like 3 people that are out of a job, you know, for this situation. And I think that's just like, that is just so wrong, so messed up. And it's creepy. The text, like laying out all of the prompt, they didn't need to do that. There's no sort of like rules about like when you use AI, you've got to give credit to, I guess, the architect's, you know, description. It's kind of really, really creepy. It kind of reminds me of the Surgeon General warning on a packet of cigarettes. It's just like, ugh.
They're taking out that human component. We are now comparing humans to robots or a fiction character. When did that become okay?
And like, I understand and appreciate that there's a disclaimer that it's AI art, but you could have just said this was generated using AI. I think it's a really dangerous line of like makeup artists see this all the time too.
Makeup artist, another person you can add to that list.
Yeah, where they're people,
stylists,
like brides or whoever, are sitting down in the chair on the day of their wedding and saying, this is my inspiration for my hair and makeup, or this is my inspiration when they're going shopping for a dress. This is my inspiration for a dress. That, like, makeup artists for years have been saying that's AI. That's not a real makeup look. I can do something like that, but that's not a real person. So your skin's not going to look like that. Or that dress doesn't even actually exist. That's just an imaginary dress that somebody, like, it's one thing if an artist is imagining a dress in their mind and draws what they think would be a beautiful dress, but you would then know that that's just a drawing, rather than, oh, this dress must be sold somewhere, and it's not at all because it doesn't exist.
I think they've taken Pinterest times 1,000. AI is a tool. It is not a replacement for the human touch, the human art, the human craft, intelligence. What are we preparing our future, our kids? And, you know, I grew up in the era being a size 2 was fat. If you had any type of curves, you weren't skinny. So what is AI? And I'll be honest, I had its own set of PTSD. That's why we had anorexia and all the food issues for generations. What are we teaching this next generation?
Beauty standards right now are already too close to heroin chic because of things like Ozempic and other weight loss drugs and sort of competitive diet culture that's coming back around. But now you add in completely fake people, that is just going to continue to further skew what people think is a normal human body. And, you know, AI is infiltrating everything. It's infiltrating all of our apps, all of our tools. And if it's, you know, a locally trained on your device AI that is only working off of your device and your work, that is a completely different thing than like these giant servers that are processing everybody's random requests on Google and everybody's things like that, where it's just growing and growing and growing and like causing a slew of issues because of not being regulated, because of environmental factors, like all these different things that we have no idea what the impact is. And now it's coming for our jobs, not just artist jobs, which we've all been concerned about artist jobs for a long time, but it's going to come for more fields too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we've already proven over and over again, there's even now a disclaimer on a couple of these AI channels, the results are not foolproof.
Yeah.
Well, where's your quality control checks? Well, guess what? You're not human. You can't do that. And that's where that human component, that we can think outside the box. We understand continuous process improvement. We can have in-depth brainstorming conversations. Who's AI going to talk to? Yeah, it's a scary situation for sure. I've seen some of people in our industry use AI to create inspiration, to, in my field, create mood boards, create an image that their client may want. I'm 50-50 on that.
Well, because then you're setting the bar for yourself to bring something to life that's not realistic either. Like, it's the same thing we talked about in a previous episode with styled shoots, where it's like, that inspiration is fake.
Yeah.
Like, it can't be done.
It's not realistic. I mean, the expectations aren't realistic. I mean, we are humans. We only have some access to so many resources. There's only so many realistic attributes that the world has given us access to. That computer-generated item doesn't exist.
I think, for some photographers, it is like they were almost nearly there in that way that they were making compositions that relied heavily on like digital like effects and stuff like that, and like changing something or editing, something maybe to put in like a giant, maybe shoot them on a green screen so they're sitting on, the edge of a crescent moon, cute stuff like that you see a lot of like family and kids and studio photographers do, probably will benefit from this.
Yes.
And they'll probably have to take it a little bit too far before they rein it back in. And I think that's happening a lot across a lot of AI that's going to, being used. I heard actually some NPR news podcasts recently talking about how in the law world, in the courts, they're using AI to write things and do things, and we're finding mistakes all over the place. Like the AI is making up laws that don't exist and citing them and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, we're gonna have to have a lot of this before we like rein it back in. All I tell people when it comes to AI is go home and watch The Matrix.
iRobot.
Yeah.
Go home and
Terminator.
touch grass.
Yeah, touch grass.
Mayor of my heart and soul, Zoran Kwame Mandame, has put a New York City moratorium on any more data server farms for the next year in New York.
I applaud that.
Yes.
I applaud that. They should put them underground. Put them out in the ocean. I don't know, like
Heat up the ocean more. That's the
like,
solution.
well, there's tons of water out there. They cool it. Like that sounds like it makes sense. Like what I hear is they're too noisy. The data
Let's put them
centers
on the
are
moon.
noisy.
Let's just
They already use a
Off
bunch of
planet them.
water to cool. Like, why aren't they just building them out on the water?
or build them integrated into like if you're already having to process water filtration of like undrinkable water, whether that's from our sewer system or something. Figure out a way to use that water before it's purified so that you're not using water that is being taken from a reservoir or from drinking or anything like that.
Take our dirty water. We don't need it.
On a more fun note, the other video that I found, which a friend of mine also shared with me, was somebody going through the comments section where a creator had said, what's the most unique thing you've seen at a wedding? And so the video that we saw for that was by a creator named Taylor Black, And she, again, is stitching another creator, so you can go to her page to see that. But she's going through, like, what are the most unique things that vendors have seen, and saying every couple should go through this feed of comments. And I just thought it'd be fun to read off some of the things that people have seen, and then maybe if that sparks anything for us of what's the most unique thing we've seen at a wedding, then that seemed like a fun, more upbeat thing to do. So some of the examples were, I worked a wedding that did a 5-course dinner. Every table had 2 empty seats. Instead of having a head table, the bride and groom sat at a new table for every course. I think that's a really fun.
I love that idea.
That is awesome. I love that idea when I read it.
I have to let the video play to get through the comments. The groom's dad was an auctioneer. He auctioned off the first 3 tables to get food, and all the money went to the honeymoon fund.
Genius.
I've thought about this before, actually, in lieu of the dollar dance. Mm-hmm. You can sell things, auction things at your wedding, like make it fun like that. I still think the dollar dance, though, is like fun. I made a lot of money during my dollar dance, so I have nothing to say about the dollar dance besides good things.
The one money collecting thing I don't like, because it's always so chaotic and almost kind of dangerous, is when they try to have like the wedding party compete to run around and see who can collect the most money from guests.
Have you seen people fall down during that?
I've seen wipeouts.
Oh, okay. Because I'm waiting for that. I haven't seen anybody too like wiped out on it yet, but it does seem very haphazard in the moment.
This one is really sweet. It says, every table had a number. Whatever table you were at had an anniversary card to sign for the couple that they would open on the anniversary that corresponds with your table number.
I think this is awesome. I actually had a couple do this with wine bottles. So that was really cool. For every year, they had a wine bottle, and then they did little love notes for them from their guests, and they would open it at that time.
Well, there's more in this video. It goes through a lot of things, and I want to find like the original thread to look for it for you ideas, because I always think it's fun to suggest things to couples. But have you all had anything that was like comes to mind as really unique that a couple did on their wedding day?
Last wedding I had a soft serve machine. That would have been really cool if they would have brought enough mix for the soft serve, because by the time that I got around to finally getting it after the line had gone down, they were all out. Wah, wah.
Yeah. There's so many different things that you can make your wedding authentically you. I've seen people like, we're not dancers. That's okay. We like to play games. And it was like a whole family tradition. So instead of doing a DJ, they literally had these huge board games and different activities. And I'll tell you this, there was not one person sitting in their seat. They're all out playing games. But that was authentically them. And that's beautiful.
A friend of mine, Heidi, had like a ring toss for alcohol at her wedding where like you couldn't open it, obviously, but you could opt to go play the ring toss. And if you got a bottle of alcohol with your ring, you got to take it home at the end of the night.
I think I did a wedding where they sent a person from every table to do a putt in front of the bride and groom because they're like golf fans, and there was a little putting green at the head table, and they like sent like somebody from every table to do a putt, and like I guess people that got the putt got to go eat first or something like that.
I would love to see like a mini golf cocktail hour. Like
that would be fun.
That'd be really fun.
I think
with like balls that are monogrammed or something. Like
fancy.
I think that was something like that on the list. They all sent them they're all they love goers. So they sent everybody to a movie theater during cocktail hour and had all the bells and whistles during that time.
Oh yeah, and they watched like a wedding themed movie or something. Yeah.
I love that idea.
Wouldn't
That's
that be
so
fun?
cool.
Yes.
I also had a bride last year, and this couldn't necessarily be repeated as easily because it was dependent on the date and the circumstance. But Kelby and Emmett, love you guys. Kelby's grandma, it was her birthday on the day that they got married. So when they cut the cake, they gave the first slice of cake to her grandma, and everybody at the wedding sang happy birthday.
That's beautiful.
It was really cute, especially because they're both like choir teachers and they love to sing, and a lot of their guests love to sing. So it was very like, it was a very beautiful rendition of happy birthday. But I just thought that was a really cool, special thing that, like, when do you get the opportunity to do something like that?
Absolutely. Well, not to also have your wedding on the same day as your grandma. Oh my gosh. Well, I think we did good today. We had a lot of topics, a lot of crucial conversations.
Budgets are a big deal, and
Yeah.
I feel like we got to talk about a lot of different aspects about them, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, there's layers, y'all. Many layers.
The economy is always changing, and we'll be there riding along.
Yes, we will.
Well, thanks for taking time with us again. You can find all of us on VOW Omaha on socials, and each of our own brands is very easy to find there as well. And we can't wait to chat with you all more.
Thank you. Come back next time. Oh, brother. Only us.